Let's have a look solutions for this one. So this is one of the layer 3 switch we have in here. We have a couple of VLANs, so VLAN 10 and VLAN 20. And this side we have the router, and then we have the destination servers. So we'd like to ping from this VLAN 10 PC to all the way to that servers. And we have VLAN 20 from that. We'd like to ping these servers. So basically, this is the instruction. So from VLAN 10 and 20, we have to ping 192.168.30.1. So basically, this is the IP address for these servers. We need to create VLAN in layer 3 switch. Assign IP address to VLAN 10 and 20. Enable inter-VLAN routing. Configure IP address, subnet mask, default gateway for PC. Enable layer 3 interface, which is FA03. And assign IP address, this one, 11.1.1.1. For router 1, assign IP address to the interface. So that means this router interface and this router interface, we need to assign IP address. Then we need to enable routing. So basically, we need to configure RIP. Here, also over there, like RIP is not just this side, this router and layer 3 switch, you need to configure RIP. And assign IP address, subnet mask, default gateway for the server. Pretty much these are the steps you need to configure. So in this scenario, at first, we can start to work with our layer 3 switch. So click on this layer 3 switch. This one has CLI. First thing, in layer 3 switch, we hit enter and say no. So say, would you like to enter initial configuration dialog? Just say no. And then we have the switch, enable config T, name it. How many switch we have? Only one switch. Okay, we name it switch 1. Say host name switch 1. After that, in here, we have two VLANs, so we need to configure VLAN. So how to configure VLAN? We say VLAN 10 name sales exit, VLAN 20 name marketing. And then this VLAN, we need to have some IP address so we can have IP communications with other PC. So I'll exit from here, say interface VLAN 10. And we're going to assign IP address for VLAN 10. We say one IP address 192.168.10.10, 255.255.255.0. That is the mask. So this IP address we just picked up from this subnet 10.0. I just put 10.10. And then VLAN 20. Say interface VLAN 20. And we're going to assign IP address, say 192.168.20.10. And we have the IP address. After that, we exit from here. And then we have this interface. Let's say FA01 interface belongs to VLAN 10. FA02, this address belongs to VLAN 20. So we're going to add those interface to the VLAN. So interface FA0/1, switch port access VLAN 10, and say interface FA0/2, and say switch port access VLAN 20. In this way, this interface belongs to VLAN 10. This interface belongs to VLAN 20. We can verify with end from here and say show VLAN brief. we can see that FA01 belongs to VLAN 10, FA0 belongs to VLAN 20. So two different VLAN we have. Now we can assign IP address for this PC. So I'll go to my first PC1, desktop IP configurations. IP address will be 192.168.10.1, subnet mask, and gateway. Gateway will be VLAN 10 IP address in layer 3 switch, which is 192.168.10.10. And close this one. I'll go to my other PC, which is belongs to VLAN 20. So we're going to assign IP address for that. Say 192.168.20.10, 20.1 subnet mask, and default gateway will be 192.168.20.10, which is VLAN 20 IP address in layer 3 switch. Close this one. Once you assign IP address, now if you'd like to communicate with each other, then what will happen? We go to command prompt and say we want to ping 192.168.20.1. So from this PC to this PC, if you'd like to ping, we need to configure Intervlan routing. So at the moment it's not working because we haven't enabled the routing yet. So how to enable Intervlan routing? Config T and say IP routing. IP routing command will enable the routing. If I say show IP route, you can see that now it knows connected subnet, which is 10.0 and 20.0 as a connected subnet. Now if I try to ping from this PC1 to PC2, it will go to, traffic will go to at first this layer 3 switch. After that, it will communicate. See this PC, they are now communicating. Now after that, once they're communicating, now layer 3 switch is connected to the router, and this side we have some other servers. So at first we need to communicate in here. So we need to assign IP address in layer 3 switch. So how to assign IP address in layer 3 switch? Config T, interface FA0/3. If I try to assign the IP address, let's say 11.1.1.1 and then 255.255.255.0, it's a invalid input detected because this port is still layer 2 port. How to make it layer 3 switch? We say no switch port and hit enter. After that, if you configure IP address, then it will take and say no shutdown. In this way, in layer 3 switch, we say no switch port. That means it's now router port. And then we can assign IP address. After that, I'll go to my router, and router I'm going to configure IP address, CLI. It says, would you like to enter initial configurations? I'll say no, enable config T. First thing, we can change the router name, say host name R1. Then each of the interface we need to configure, say interface gig 0/0, IP address 11.1.1.2, and then 255.255.255.0, and say no shut. See the port is up now, so you configure this one. So gig 00 is done. Now gig 01 we're going to configure IP address 30.10. So it's a interface gig 0/1. IP address will be 192.168.30.10. Subnet mask 255.255.255.0 and say no short. In this way, we configure this IP address and say no shutdown. After that, so IP address configurations is done. Now, this server's IP address we need to configure. So go to desktop, IP configurations. Server IP address is 192.168.30.1, and then subnet mask gateway will be 192.168.30.10. Gateway will be always from the same subnet. So it will be 192.168.30.10. And then close this one. Now all the IP address configurations is done. And if you try to communicate, let's say from this PC, if you try to communicate with 30.1, it will not work because we do not have any routing. So once you configure all the IP address, now last thing we need to configure routing. So in our context in here, we're going to configure RIP. So if I go to my layer 3 switch and say show IP route, so it can discover 3 subnet. They are all connected. See, 11.1.0, 10.0, 20.0. So when you configure RIP, say we need to go to config mode, config T, and say router RIP version 2, and then we add all the connected subnet. Say network 11.1.1.0, network 192.168.10.0, network 192.168.20.0. In this way, you add all the connected subnet, and your router RIP actually knows about all the subnet. And this is the advantage this is the advantage with dynamic routing, because dynamic routing, if you have many subnet, simply you just need to add that one. And this side of the router, we do also RIP configurations. Say router RIP version, enter version 2, and then connected subnet. So router 3 has 11.1.1.0 and 30.0, these two subnet connected. Say network 11.1.1.0, network 192.168.30.0. Once you connect, then pretty much we have RIP configurations in here, RIP configurations in here. Now we should have a routing all the way to these servers in here. If I go to my layer 3 switch, and now if I say show IP route, you can see that we have connected subnet. In addition, we have a RIP. RIP means with that RIP routing showing our destinations network 192.168.30.0. So we have routing over there. What is 120? Is the administrative distance. What is 1? Is like a 1 hop away. So from here, we should be able to ping our destinations IP address. Because we have routing to 30.0, so you should be able to ping 30.1. So you can communicate. So that's because of routing, we can communicate from there. If I go to my PC, and if I'm going to ping now look at that. So from the VLAN, all the way we can go to this layer 3 switch, this router, and then after that we can ping over there. If I do tree search 192.168.30.1, and you can see how traffic is actually going. So at first is going to here, which is because this is from VLAN 10, it's going to 192.168.10.10 is gateway. Then it will go to this gateway 11.1.1.2, which is this one, and then 192.168.30.1. This is the destinations. So pretty much in this way, you can configure this one. So this one is pretty much covering VLAN routing informations.